This video is brought to you in collaboration with wowhead.com. Hello everyone! A brand new book has been released, Shadows Rising, written by Madeleine Roux. I've done a spoiler-free review on it, and my opinion still stands. It is a delightful book that adds a lot more depth to the characters that we know, and some that hardly ever get to play a part in World of Warcraft. It has humor, it has dark parts out of desperation, and the way that it weaves storylines from the past and in the book together, it makes it very clear that this story is written by someone with a love and appreciation for the lore. What I'm trying to say is, do yourself a favor and pick up the book. It reads very smoothly, and if you simply want it read out to you, there's also the audiobook version, voiced by Talanji herself. Today, I am going to cover some of the major points that the story brings across, but as with every single book that we've done before, I won't be able to do the details justice, nor will I be able to cover every single one of them. If you want all of that, go ahead and dive into it yourself. Shadows Rising, that takes place at the end of the Fourth War. Warchief Sylvanas took Saurfang's life and vaped out of there, proclaiming that
the Horde is nothing! You are all nothing!
After working together to defeat the old god N'Zoth, the Alliance and Horde, they decide to go towards peace again, putting away old hatreds and focus on the future with an armistice, but that's easier said than done. War brings pain, inflicts wounds that can span across generations when left to fester. Not all are easily going to drop what happened, like say what we did at the end of Mr. Pandaria. There is a path to walk to make these changes happen, and that's part of what Shadows Rising is all about, the conflict and the aftermath with the Alliance and the Horde. The second part of the story, that has to do with Sylvanas and her goals that will be explained further in the Shadowlands expansion. As we see in the cinematic, she ultimately ends up at the top of Icecrown, defeating Bolvar and taking the Helm of Domination for herself. By ripping it apart, she shatters the veil between the physical world and the afterlife. This world is a prison, according to the Banshee Queen, and she is going to set us free, whatever that might mean. What we do learn from the book is that she sees someone like Bwonsamdi, Loa of Death, as a threat to their plans. A threat that she wants Nathanos to take care of, and that is the major threat that drives the plot, that drives the story further. So, two major sections to this book. Let's first begin with the Alliance and the Horde parts. The Horde, they no longer have a Warchief, as we already saw in game. They now deal with a council with many different voices representing their people. We kinda wondered exactly who was going to be part of this council, but it turns out that it's everybody, from former Warchief Thrall to Philistra and Lorfmar to even someone like G. Firepaw. Yep, you heard it right. Our Pandaran representative actually gets a part to play, as well as the recently added allied races. Each of them has a leader representing them. Many different voices that need to come together, rather than just one Warchief. With Sylvanas abandoning them, the Forsaken, they were left without a leader. For some, there will never be a different leader than Sylvanas Windrunner. But from the book we learn that it's Lillian Voss who's currently acting as interim leader. Time will tell if that role will become a permanent one. Lillian as leader is not completely out of the blue. When it comes to the candidates to take over leadership for the Forsaken, it was pretty much going to be either her or Kalia Menethil. Kalia is the sister to Arthas Menethil, recently resurrected with the aid of the light. Kalia, she concerns herself more with the Dark Rangers abandoned by Sylvanas, but she does travel with Lillian. And with so many different people and opinions, it is a challenge to make everybody see eye to eye. Especially since Thrall, he's a little bit worried and careful about not slipping into his old role. Nathanos believes that this chaos, so many voices, each with their own agenda, their own secrets and needs, that it will never accomplish anything. That works out quite nicely for their plans. And at first, the Pale Rider, he seems to be right. The event of the Fourth War, it did quite a lot of damage to the world and to the Horde itself. Queen Talanji is a prime example. She and the Zandalari, they joined the Horde during Battle for Azeroth. Her father Rastakan, he was blind to see what she could clearly see, threats within and without that the Zandalari were going to need help for. En route to a meeting with Warchief Sylvanas, Talanji and Prophet Zul, they get captured by the Alliance, to which the Horde breaks them out. This isn't really brought forward in the game, nor in the book. Nobody really explains why the Alliance did this, or how they thought it was okay to imprison the royalty of the Zandalar. Instead, it is the death of her father during the battle for the Zandalar that makes her hatred burn in her heart. Not just towards the Alliance in general either, but specifically Jaina Proudmoore. How can the Horde talk about peace with those murderers? And some amongst the Horde, they actually agree. Their argument becomes so heated, not aided by a failed assassination attempt, that Talanji decides to turn her back on Orgrimmar and the Horde. It's Zandalar that needs her more now, while the Horde is unwilling to help, can't even guarantee her safety. To still keep somewhat of a door open to talk, Zappy Boy, as Bwonsamdi calls him, also known by his real name Zakan, he is asked to stay at the Queen's side as an ambassador, seeing how it was he who saved her life from the assassin. With a little push from Bwonsamdi, she would be more open to having him around. Trouble and conflict on the Horde side. Meanwhile, the Alliance isn't doing a whole lot better. Nathanos believes that the Alliance leaders do not trust each other, they are fractured and in disarray. Once again, the man isn't wrong. We already saw in-game that going for peace, it was not going to be an option for Turalyon the Whisperwind. She and the Night Elves, they lost their home of Teldrassil to the flames, to Sylvanas and the Horde. The genocide of their people, that's what it's been described as. And now, after going through the Night Warrior ritual, her hatred burns and will not be sated until she claims vengeance. Again, Greymane. He has quite a history with Sylvanas and the Forsaken, losing his home, his son and his king to their actions, so no surprise that he agrees with Tyrande. There's also a whole lot of pressure to bring the undead Windrunner to justice. Pressure that weighs heavy on the shoulders of Anduin.
The path to peace will not be easy, and not all will choose to walk it. But this is the only way to build a better future. I believe it will work, Ken. It has to.
Sometimes, the Boy King feels like a coin satchel, and every worry, every problem, every mistake, every crisis, it was another fat, heavy coin falling into that bag. Sylvanas evading them, Alliance soldiers dying under his command, the failed meeting in Arafi during the novel Before the Storm. Sometimes, it all becomes a bit much. It's interesting to see the parallels between Talanji and Anduin. They're both children of rulers, both of them offering advice, aiding their fathers into choosing a better path. But now that the pressure is on them, they realize that it's not an easy road to walk. Mistakes are going to be made, and in the case of Anduin, his desire for justice has named Turalyon Lord Commander of the Alliance forces. His task, his only task, is to find Sylvanas Windrunner, hunt her day and night, use whatever means you must. Words that Turalyon and his wife Illyria Windrunner, words that they take to heart. The light and void work in unison through them to extract the information that they need, regardless of the pain and suffering that they inflict on those interrogated. It can't be a nice experience to be shackled by the light while the void enters your mind. And while they do get the results and vital information, it also creates mistrust. How much control does the Void have over Illyria? Would she even know if or when the whispers become her voice? Jaina, she finds out what these two have been doing and she reports back to Anduin, expecting that the Boy King is going to be as appalled as she is about all of this, that their actions poorly represent him and what the Alliance stands for. If their actions are sanctioned by your rule, then what does it say about us? Instead, the little line thinks it says that they will do whatever they must to bring murderers to justice. It says we will not forget those lost in war. It says we will not forget Teldrassil, Lordaeron, the Mak'gora, flames blazing over the veiled sea, or the fires reflected in the eyes of 1,000 mourning children. O great lion, Jaina thought, your heart is becoming steel. More darkness and infighting on the Alliance side, that's always welcome in my book. To see characters that have dealt with similar situations in the past, that they're now sharing the wisdoms of the trials that they've overcome, not instantly forgetting about the war and its effects, but a living, breathing situation that develops between the Alliance and the Horde. It's brilliant to see, and it's such a step up between Mr. Pandaria and Draenor and what we see now. Onwards to the second major part of the book, which is the conflict. We don't know the exact motivation behind Sylvanas' actions. We can make guesses and we can speculate on it, but we don't know for sure. What we do know is that she's going to get us into the next expansion, the Shadowlands, by opening up that rift at the top of Icecrown. She is in league with the Jailer, sending a whole bunch of souls directly to the Maw to get the power needed to set him free, and in exchange, increase her powers as well. She did a bit of a cheat and got access to the Covenant system before any one of us could even test it. With that added power, she was able to one-shot Sourfang, take on Bolvar and his forces, work towards the plans that she has with the Jailer, whatever those might be, but it's not going to be a smooth road to walk. There will be forces and obstacles in her way, trying to stop her. Amongst them is the Loa of Death, Bwonsamdi.
So, why have you come to see me?
During Battle for Azeroth, we saw that the Loa of Kings, Rezan, he had King Rastikan's back. But Zul's schemes, they led to the death of Rezan, meaning that the king was a bit powerless. Mentioning the dead Loa, it makes Bwonsamdi quite sad. But all the same, Rastikan, he called upon him to make a deal, to grant him the power to save his city, to save his people, and in exchange, he would elevate Bwonsamdi above all other Loa. Worship and sacrifices are what empower some of the Loa, so a fair deal for Bwonsamdi, not just a deal made with Rastikan, but his entire bloodline.
All who succeed you will keep this bargain to serve me in life and in death. Forever.
The power of the Loa did make quite a difference as Zul attacked the city, but when the Alliance went on the attack, not so much. Even though they were planning on having the king surrender, invading his city, assaulting his forces, murdering his people, it doesn't put Rastikan in a negotiating mood.
You've been king a long time, Rastikan. Maybe.
Beware.
If you can't be getting the job done, perhaps that pretty daughter of yours can.
This battle was going to be won to the death. Talanji held her father in her arms as his life slipped away. The bargain now passed on to her. Now it is she who is tied to the trickster, and while they did their very best to stop the Alliance, Gelbin and Jaina, they bought them all the time they needed to make their escape. That's the background behind the connection between Bwonsamdi and Queen Talanji. And as I said earlier, Talanji has no intention of letting go of her hatreds. Yet at the same time, when you stand all alone, it makes you easy prey for your enemies. Just like her father, who was once too proud, too blind to see that they needed aid from outsiders, that they needed the aid from the Horde. Now it's Talanji that can't swallow her own desires to accept the aid when she needs it most. A good opportunity for Nathanos, Sira Moonwarden and others to work together with a rebel faction called Widow's Bite. They're led by a Zandalari troll called Apari, and Apari was actually a childhood friend of Talanji, also the daughter of Yasma. The same Yasma that stood with Zul while he wanted to take the throne away from Rastikan. Through all of that, Apari had remained at Talanji's side, but then the Alliance barged into their home during the battle for the Zara lore. Gnomish siege weapons assaulted the Great Seal. Walls were crumbling, ceilings caving in. Apari had been pinned down under a fallen pillar, blood trailing from her lips, begging Talanji to help her. The princess was rushing towards her father and chose to go for him, promising that she would send help for Apari. It was all a chaos. It was all a blur. Had she forgotten in all of that to help her dying friend? And now Apari has her own quest for bloody revenge. Wounds of the past that are festering. It is a big theme of the story. There is quite literally a wound festering on Apari's leg. And while they might be able to help her, they might be able to amputate and relieve her of the pain. Instead, she embraces it. She let it fuel her hatreds as she works together with Nathanos. Sacrifices and blood rituals. It allows them to cause a mighty storm to surround Zandalar, making traveling and spying eyes extremely difficult. Her magics also allow her to assault Bwonsamdi's shrines, weakening the Loa's power. Their forces attack not just with open assaults, but also whispers amongst the people, turning them against their queen. Increasing the doubt that they already had about a queen following the whispers of the Loa of Death. Fires are raging around the queen of the Zandalari, with her bond to Bwonsamdi, making it so that as his powers are weakening, so is her life draining away. They are connected, for now anyways, as she definitely wants to get out of this bargain. So to Loa, he promises her a new deal. You protect my shrines, you keep us safe, and when Bwonsamdi is strong again, their pact will be no more. You will have your life back, all your own. But you may not like what it means to be all alone. Bwonsamdi desperately wants her to remain on the Horde Council, to add the strength of the Horde to theirs. Where once he could see that Rastakan's time was over, now he's putting in a whole lot of work with Talanji. Work like making a bargain with Zakan. I already mentioned how Bwonsamdi gave him a little push to save the Queen, protect his investments and all that, but he's going to need more from the troll. The Queen doesn't trust him, but Zakan, he might be able to make them see reason. And since this was the point of Zakan's quest anyways, he agrees to the bargain. In return, as a reward, he is shown a vision of death. There was quite a bit of a father-son bond between him and Saurfang, and the Loa of Death, he shows him a vision of Varrock, a vision where his son Dranosh is with him, on the hunt to bring home the spoils for his beloved wife Remda in the beautiful lands of home. Will it be like that for me? He asked Bwonsamdi. Will my father be waiting for me? Bwonsamdi wagged a bony finger at him. Nah, that would ruin the surprise. Did you see what you needed to see? Zakan nodded. I think I did. The vision is rather interesting, and I'm curious if Bwonsamdi showed him a lie, or what it should be, or if he potentially saved Saurfang's soul, considering that all of the souls somewhere around the Legion time periods, they've been going straight down into the Maw. Since Saurfang died during Battle for Azeroth, you would imagine that that is where he's spending his afterlife. I was lucky enough to do an interview with Madeleine Roux, and I got to ask this very question. As it turns out, this was indeed a lie shown by Bwonsamdi, a trick from the trickster Loa to manipulate Zakan to his side. Now later in the story, Zakan himself is gravely injured near death's door on his way to the Shadowlands. Nearly does the Maw with its eternal cruelty take him. But Bwonsamdi isn't done with him yet, and he yoinks him out of there. Back to the world of the living, Zakan says that he saw something, but never like he expected. You lied, Bwonsamdi. You lied. What did you see? Bwonsamdi demanded, tripping over his words, breathless with panic. Tell me. And he does. Confirmation that his soul would have gone to the Maw. Bwonsamdi has been busy saving more souls like this, keeping them away from that hell. Souls like that of King Rastakan. But it's definitely taking a toll on him, all that he has left, just to keep them safe. That's why they need to stop these rebels and Blightcaller. If they would have their way, nothing will stop all souls from entering the Maw for good. The Maw, the Shadowlands, the Spirit Realm. A taste of the domain where our journey leads next. Not just Bwonsamdi can sense that something's going on. There are also the shamans of the Earthen Ring, for example, that bring their concerns to Thrall. The spirits are in disarray. Where once they communed peacefully with the ancestors, they now find them angry and vengeful. They lash out at them. They deny their wisdom. Something is terribly wrong. This leads to a meetup at Nordrassil with the Night Elves. As their priestesses, they've made similar discoveries. They want to meet up and discuss and share information. But Tyrande, she doesn't take kindly to Horde around here, but she is willing to see Thrall if he brings her what is owed. Thrall thinks very hard what could possibly soothe the wounds inflicted. What he would desire if it was Orgrimmar that had burned. Ultimately, he decides to bring a sincere apology, which of course isn't enough for Tyrande. There's actually a really nice discussion that happens here, one worthy of the forums, where they talk about responsibility for actions, how far one must go to make amends, who is in the right and who is in the wrong. It was wonderfully done, so ultimately, Tyrande doesn't accept his apology, promising that the Horde will feel thereof. The orphans created will grow up, wake each morning tasting ash, and one day they will come for you. Oh, they will come for you, and they will make you taste that same ash, and then you will know their justice. Thrall, together with Kalia and Bane, who were there with him, they're asked to leave. Before he goes, he turns around and makes the promise that he will bring her what is owed. Not words, not promises. I will bring you the head of Sylvanas Windrunner. The faintest trace of a smile appeared on Tyrande Whisperwind's face. Do it then. or never seek to speak with me again. The head of Sylvanas is not on the table in this book. Instead, due to the efforts of both the Alliance and the Horde, information about Nathanos' schemes, roaming about Zandalar, whispering and attacking, they're finally brought forth. Not without great risk, mind you. Spymaster Matthias Shaw, he travels to Zandalar together with Flynn Fairwind, continuing their adventures that we saw during Battle for Azeroth. At the end of the Fourth War, we already got a conversation between Valera and Shaw, letting us know that there is someone that he would like to get to know better. That someone being Flynn, and en route the two men they grow closer to each other, sharing stories that one does not share with just anyone. When Shaw gets taken prisoner by a Zandalari patrol, Flynn is his only hope and chance at rescue of anyone, even knowing what happened to him. The seasoned sailor risks life and limb sailing through those magical storms that surround Zandalar, but he does manages to do it. Manages to explain Shaw's fate and brings the intel needed to the Alliance, who then share it with the Horde, and the Horde, they bring that intel to Talanji, opening her eyes to the full scope of the threats surrounding her. The Banshee Queen's forces are skulking around Zandalar. She will not stand for it. The aid of the Horde is accepted, and in the final confrontation, a Pari is slain. Sira is taken captive, while Nathanos escapes. The aid of the Horde is something that Talanji is very grateful for, but her thirst for vengeance upon Jaina, it has not instantly vanished. For now, she will rejoin the Horde, combining their strengths, and even the bargain with Bwonsamdi continues. Although a bit altered, he would have let her go if she wanted to. She did after all save him from annihilation. But the Queen of the Zandalari, she is wise enough to know that she's going to need his power. She wants his power. He just needs to take a bit of a step back. More like a partnership, while also embracing the wisdom and power from all the other Loa. He will still be the Loa of Kings. He will still be her Loa, but now not an allegiance out of forced inheritance from her father, but one that they both agree upon. Sira Moonwarden, she is sent over as a gift from the Horde to the Alliance, and specifically Tyrande. Not what Thrall had promised her, not what is owed, but it was definitely a start. The undead elf is sent over, together with the released Shaw. In the Stormwind Harbor, he embraces Flynn tightly, and he lets him know that there is something that he'd like to talk about. His time in prison has opened his eyes, mind and heart to what he really wants. A rendezvous at the Gilded Rose that night. Sadly, the conversation between them, it is not part of the book. We do know that this is just the start of Shaw and Flynn's adventures. In October, we're gonna get Exploring Azeroth, which has exquisite art and a framing story written by Christy Golden involving these two lovebirds. Anduin interrogates Sira first, and the Boy King does not hold back. He wants to know where Sylvanas is, and throughout the story, you can tell that Anduin is struggling. He is not the boy that we once knew, but the Dark Warden gives him no answers. She only taunts him, and then something interesting happens. Anduin made a soft sound of disgust and stood, hovering over her, considering her for a long and tense spell. A wisp of purple energy traveled down his arm, gathering in his palm. It happened in a blink, coming and going, but Sira noticed and laughed till she was hoarse. "Tell me," she mocked in a sing-song voice, "how does it feel to know that you have lost? For time will prove it so. Ah well, take heart, falling lion. You will serve well. You will serve well."
The Boy King serves at the Master's table. 3 lies will he offer you.
She is then imprisoned within the stockades, where Tyrande, escorted by Chandris and Maiev, they have a go at her. Here we find out more about Sira. You might recall how she was part of the Darkshore campaign in Battle for Azeroth. There it was, where she lost her life to Nathanos and Horde heroes. In her battle, she knew that Tyrande would come to her aid, tear Nathanos to pieces. But Tyrande didn't reach her in time. Alone abandoned me. You abandoned me, my sister warriors, and you did nothing to save me. I did not choose to return. I would never choose to return. Everything inside me is ugliness and rage, and the only thing that quiets the scream is death. For what was done to me, I will see 100-fold done upon this cursed realm. Back during the Darkshore campaign, we wondered why these recently resurrected Night Elves, why they would choose to serve the one that had brought them so much pain and suffering. Fair enough that they feel hatred towards a loon or even their leaders for abandoning them, but still, it's quite a jump to then go and serve the one that inflicted that pain to begin with. Flavor text, it told us that they have their reasons for accepting the Valkyr's gifts, but from this, we find out that there was no real choice about being brought back, and that she's suffering. The fury of the Night Warrior wants to claim her life, but not only does Chandris speak about mercy, even Maiev, who's normally quite hostile, she adds her voice to mercy. Mercy for that little hidden light, for a sad, defeated thing. Make no mistake, Tyrande has the strength and will and courage to make the kill, and that is what frightens her, what should frighten all of them. But perhaps the mercy that she shows Sira will be a seed that grows inside of her, a small light able to overcome the dark side of the moon. And so, Nathanos, he manages to escape that final confrontation. Using a vial gifted to him by the Banshee Queen, strange coils of black smoke, they seeped out from between his fingers where he clasped the vial. The tendril recoiled back into the sky, leaving behind nothing but a few wisps of shadow where Blightcaller had been. He seemingly vapes out of there, right towards his beloved, where he now has to explain that his mission has failed. The helmet, by this point, has been shattered, and Sylvanas expects good news from her champion, news about his victory as they take these first steps together, but his failure turns her icy cold towards him. Go where you will, Nathanos, but do not be idle. The Loa knows the Shadowlands well. I expect you will return to me with means to prevent his meddling. Sylvanas flicked her fingers, as if ridding herself of a speck of muck. My path lies ahead. And so it did. And so she continued. For power sought power, and she would have more of it, not for its own sake, but to wield it. The unjust ladder of their lives must be dismantled, not rung by rung, but all at once. All of it. She had been the plaything of a self-righteous cosmos long enough. The jailer too understood what must be done. She did not know if or when Nathanos left. It mattered not. She had merged entirely with the shadows there already, part of the darkness at last. Darkness that will lead us into the Shadowlands. And as I mentioned in my spoiler-free review, this book isn't a must-read if you want to understand what's going on in the next expansion, but I would definitely recommend it if you want a deeper, better understanding of the events and characters that we are going to play with. There are layers and connections made in the book, awesome dialogue and events that, well, they're not a need-to-know basis. They definitely deserve your time to be checked out. So in summary, things that I'm really looking forward to further explored in the Shadowlands. There's Anduin. Our boy king is struggling. The desperation of bringing Sylvanas to justice. It reminds me a lot of the desperation from another blonde light wielder who felt it when he tried to bring Mal'Ganis to justice. Will Anduin to ignore all counsel and walk his own path, or allow others to help him carry the weight of the crown? Then Turalyon and Illyria, they show a much darker side amongst the Alliance, which is awesome to see. Will she be able to keep the void under control, or will the hunt for her sister tear her apart? Same question for Tyrande. Will she ever be able to find a balm for the pain inflicted? Is there anything that can be done that would make Teldrassil right? Or is the Night Warrior going to tear her apart? Same question for Talanji. Will she hold on to the lessons learned in this story, or let her thirst for vengeance cloud her judgment? Not to mention Bwonsamdi. His loyalties seem really interesting. With Rastakhan, he was okay to let him go, but with Talanji, he pushes to keep her around. He reminds me a lot of Revyon in that regard. Not so much an ally to us, but more to his purpose. And then our boy Nathanos, he kinda got sent off to the doghouse for failing Sylvanas. How is that going to play out? Is he going to remain at her side? Or are these the first signs of cracks in their relationship? He once said that he wouldn't mind spending all eternity in damnation if it was with his beloved. Could he change his mind about her plans with the jailer? Then Shaw and Flynn, I can't wait to see their journey continue. The way that they were described, I thought the way that their relationship was built up in the book, that it was very nicely done, and I really hope that we get to see this continue in the game. I also didn't even mention some of the other relationships that have come out of this, some other cute connections. Again, those details, go pick up the book. And if you have, by all means, let me know in the comments down below what part you can't wait to see further explored. I'm curious what we're hoping for. And yeah, right everybody, with that, I think we'll be going on for long enough. So as always, thank you very much for watching everyone. If you're looking for more details on all the things we talked about today, then check out the Delayed Wild article in the description down below. You could also decide to subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, see ya!